Good. So. Onegaishimasu. Just a little bit of lengthening through the spine. Just a few in this case. There's this really nice image you can have like with the spine or just with the body in general about length, like this idea of like drawing a string up through the body, which goes like beyond the body. So you can look like yesterday we were talking about this thing in the back of your head. You can kind of press it back and lengthen it through the back of the neck. But this one's a nice one because it goes a bit external to you. So it's a feeling of like being drawn up to the top. So just do a few of like, you've got that and then just feel it, just draw it up a little bit. And just get to like the maximum feeling where everything's like nice and long, full, and then just dropping it down again. And just play with the breath also. So the breath will also help you kind of expand up, and out. Okay. And if it's had this as an image, this is a nice one because it will prevent the head from doing these kind of things like forward or like looking down. Because if I imagine the top of the head being like drawn up, and everything else gets drawn out from it. So just you can also use the feeling like if you did have a string attached to the top of the head, if someone was to pull it, what would go first is the top of the head. So it's like that would get pulled up first and everything else would get pulled up out of the ground from it. So you can have this kind of feeling, which is a bit counter to what we normally do in Aikido, which is like working from the ground. But it's also a nice way to work with the body a little bit. Just imagine you get drawn up. Drawn up. Okay, and then just emphasizing a little bit, keeping the feet down, emphasizing the down direction. Just have the sense like you go to the right, and then just let the body kind of sink down into it. You want like this kind of springiness. So I want to, although I want to like heaviness, I want to really like a feeling like something like settling down into the ground. Which for me, it translates to a feeling of like springiness, because the joints kind of remain open. What I don't want to do is like push it down and lock the joints. So I can do like that, or I can do like where the body just like And I'm not really a musician, but I imagine like playing the piano a little bit. You like but I imagine like I would hit the keys with a force that would be like boom, rather than like yeah, that would be like really make me immobile. So I think about like this kind of feeling of so it's got an impact percussion quality. I did a little bit of drums before, but just this sense of boom, and the joint remains open. We talked about this yesterday. This translates later for us in terms of Taina Henko. So when we do like this kind of, I can do that and like stiffen everything up, or I can have a sense of like like deeply impacting the ground through like a really connected, supple joint system. So that's really the aim, to create kind of suppleness, which is just naturally heavy. That's the kind of feeling you want, something naturally with weight. Okay, and we'll just go side to side. This way. That's good. The key for me, this one is like feeling that I don't contract this part of the body to make this one long. So it's the feeling of like all sides of the body being long and full. So imagine like this being like inflated cylinder, and I don't want to like kink it at the waist or at the ribs. I want to have this sense like it can really flex through. But again, it's like something, I imagine in this case, the point of the shoulder and the point of this foot, imagine you're like stretching something out from that line. Yeah. So you can play with this a little bit, and you can have different kinds of connections with the body. You've got an unlimited amount of connections in the body, but just get a sense that you can do like that, you can do like that, you can do something like that. And just play, also the hands will also help you as well. So you'll know a lot of, if you've done any bit of Tai Chi or even watched any bit of Tai Chi, you know this feeling, sometimes you get this sense of like spreading the hands spreading the hands, floating the hands. And it's all got this kind of fluid, like almost like floating the body. That's it. That's it. That's it. And just play a little bit with the feet, like moving them around a little bit, maybe. I was talking to someone yesterday, if you also play with hand is a really great stance. It's got flexibility and it's got stability, almost like equal measures. But it's got these two big weaknesses, which is what we exploit a lot of the time in Aikido, which is these two dead angles. So it's where my imbalance is. That's where I need to kind of take a step. So just play a little bit, in this case, with like the hand as well. It doesn't have to be specific, just one foot in front of the other, but just play with like that. And if you look at a classic technique like Shihonai, that's really exploiting this imbalance in the body. Mm-hmm. My ability as an uke to like receive that and deal with that is where the ukemi is like becomes really a flexibility exercise, because I can't really do anything else apart from make the body flexible. Otherwise the body just gets locked up. So just play a little bit, don't go too far with it because it's quite early in the morning. Not totally warmed up, but just get the sense of like, you can like arc into it with the arm also. And you can picture like kotegai, shihonagi, even iriminagi, but they all work on that kind of dead angle, this one, that goes to the back. And the spine really needs to be flexible to deal with that. Otherwise you're gonna like, clunk. The spine's gonna kind of suffer for it, so yeah. Just play with it very, very lightly. Just that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And just notice what happens with the head also. So just, again, we've been looking a little bit like the eyes, what happens with the vision, where do I look? Just get a sense that I can do something like this, I can be straightforward, and everything gets taken away from me. And if I don't follow it with the body, with the eyes, with everything else, everything will just twist out of the structure. So the shoulder will really suffer for this. So get in the sense that I can just join that direction with the head. And then the whole body will just start to follow with it. So I really want to go with everything, so the whole body's going to do it. And you can translate these really into like spiral movements when we do things like this. All these feeling of like being taken out in kotegai. Just that sense of like, I really need to allow the body to be supple and spiraling through it. Yeah, yeah, just play with it. You can do different things with it. Yeah, that's it. Again, my aim in this is like to increase mobility through the structure. So, and it's not about flexibility. Flexibility is one thing you can increase, but this is actually something to do what I'm doing with my intention and with my mind. So I need to think supple to be supple. If I think rigid, I will be rigid. So just get a sense that I need to allow the structure to be supple because that's what it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, and some of you got much more flexibility in the knees, but just explore also, explore this direction. This is a bit easier way to do it, but if you think about Ikkyo, works now on that direction. So really like getting drawn out. So you've got that movement and the body needs to like fold again into it. So it's actually a movement when you receive the ukemi like this. I don't receive it with the arm. So the arm's getting taken out, but I'm actually receiving the technique with the hips. So this is where the ukemi is really important, that I'm actually independent from the other person. So even though they're doing it with my arm structure, I'm trying to connect that to my hip to be able to regain the arm. Because my intention with the ukemi is to regain the structure. It's not to just receive the technique, it's to regain, how do I get my structure back? So that's explored a little bit later when we go to Kaishiwaza and all that kind of stuff, but just go into this feeling of like being drawn out a little bit. Yeah. And fundamentally, you're exploring like you're in balance. So I'm being drawn out of my balance, out of my structure, and like my ability to maintain that flexibility, even when that's happening, even when I'm getting totally drawn out of the structure, that's the ukemi part. So that's the kind of receiving body part, the softening part. So just a little bit. Just depending on your flexibility, make it more and more challenging. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, and also feel free, you can also like really come to the ground. I can't quite get down, but get the sense that you're gonna like really like roll down to the ground. Yeah. And back up. There we go. Yeah. And just notice also it's like where Kemi is also interested in a kind of psychological sense also is like it just makes you uncomfortable. Now I'm putting my body in a really uncomfortable position. That can go like a big stress on the body mentally. So it's also interesting, even when I do it on myself, that can also come up. So just explore it also because we need to train with that also. That's part of the training. That's part of it. Like I get that and I feel like, whoa. Just the feeling of falling will tend to induce fear, will induce stress in the system. That's what we're training with when we do a Kemi. So even when I'm doing it solo, I can still get access to that, or like I feel like I'm falling over. So just play with it a little bit. That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And just now explore between these two. So you've got like that, and then you've got like that. And really now moving the feet with it as well. So you've got like this kind of feeling, and you've got this kind of feeling. And just allow the body to really go with it. So if you imagine, it's a little bit related to what we started with the like string being pulled out. Now you imagine the joints being controlled by the hand or by the joint here. That's kind of locked out. Now that's being taken away from you. So that joint structure is being taken. So I need to give that up. And I need to give my movement back to the body. So that's the only thing I can go with it at this point. So, but just feel like that's been taken out. Now, what do I do about it? So I've lost my freedom. What do I do? I've got to go with it. So that happens, and then I need to follow it. And this is where in Aikido you will be taken to the ground. But in this case, just walk, just kind of follow it with the body. If you feel like it, go to the ground, but I'm not going to do it today. If you get taken down by yourself, follow it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to like the opposite side now where you're working with the structure. So just work with the simple one because it's easy. You can think about like Shihonagi, but it starts to get complicated. So just working with like an Ikkyo, just going to work both hands together. So they're just going to go from the ground. And it's really easy. Just don't think so much about the, let's say the classic style in our systems, like come up, bring it across, and then bring it down like this. So we've got this like boom, 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 like a kind of following a square or something. Just get a sense that you're going to do something a bit softer. So it's something a bit more like a wave across. This is where the technique goes later anyway. But just get a sense that the hands together just roll across and then draw down. And don't think too much, again, don't think so much about doing the technique on someone, but just think about I'm transferring this position to with an arc and then this position. And then kind of stepping through with it. So just think, it's been a long time since you've done an Ikkyo to someone probably. So just get a sense that what you're doing is like just a transfer of weight, a translation of the koki work in an arc across the body, over, and just stepping with it. So just play with it a little bit. Yeah. And you can think about these kokyu nage, you can think about the ikkyo, but just let that movement like it's going to raise across, arc over, and then come down. Like following a rainbow. Ooh. Got a big, big arc through the body. Yeah, that's it. You just play with it. Okay. Yeah, really interesting. Even when we do it alone, just watch this. I notice this when I take a Kemi for people. So I get taken out in the arc, and then as they step through, they lose the arm. So I'm actually back in balance because once the structure's been loosened, I can just bring the arm back into the body. So that's where I can take the technique back because I've got the balance back. So just watch this as I go through. This arc's full, this arc's full, this arc's full, the 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 arc's full. So it's always full in that position. Now I never want to do this. As soon as I do that, I've given the person the structure back. Now in the dojo, we tend to just follow it. We do the technique because we're doing it with each other. But in essence, I'm going to give the person the structure back. So get a sense that what you're doing is like, through my extension, I am drawing the person away from the structure, away, 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 away. And as I step through, it's still away from them. But what I'm doing is entering the body through the structure. So I've weakened the structure, and then I'm going to press the body through it. Again, as soon as I do that, I'm going to either pull the person back into me, or I'm going to just give them the structure back. So I'll just play with it a little bit. And you can just think it in simple terms, just maintain the arc, maintain the extension all the way. Once the extension's on, it's just going to stay. Stay, 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 stay. It's like sword work, really. Yeah. It's the equivalent of doing this with the sword, just so it's really clear. It's like doing this with the sword. This, I've got the extension, and then I make another movement, and I do that. And then I push into the body. So that never really happens in the sword, but you've got like that. And then even when I take a step, it's flexible, but it's always in a state of extension. So this is one point about extension. Once you kind of enter into the form, it's just going to stay. The extension's always full. That kind of feeling. But it's also breathable. There's room to breathe with it, but I'm not going to lose the extension. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Good. That's it. Okay, so this is where you go, like, you can show this to a beginner or even someone that's done Aikido for 10 years, and you go, this is sword work, and the person goes, I don't see it. And I know that position because I was there for a long time. Like, I don't see what's the sword work in this? This is not sword, Ikkyo is not sword work. I can see some kind of, maybe it's cutting, but really get a sense that what you're doing is really just an applied principle of this. So you've got this movement which is trained from the sword work. It's drilled into us, especially in our style. This and this, this and this. And all this Ikkyo is like that, and then I just translate that into the bodywork. So the body's doing something else. It's doing like a big arcing movement. But that essential characteristic, which is like raising, drawing down, that's the Ikkyo. So it's applied in a much more rounder context. So it's like doing it around a ball rather than like raising up like this, but it's got the same essential quality. That. There. And I'm doing it with a sense of controlling the person. So, but it's an applied sword form, basically, in essence. And this is where, like, the training Taijutsu stuff, you can start to access it a bit more, kind of with the system like embedded underneath it. All the sword work that we do. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. We go. Yeah. Okay, good. So the same things we kind of talk about all the time, like coming from the ground, releasing from the feet, raising the arms, not lifting the arms. Try and see if you can kind of access them now as well. So just play with them. But the first one is this feeling of like, as you go, again, hips initiate, and the ground is where the movement comes from. So it's not going to start in the hands. So this or this. So it's got this kind of quality. So that very first movement and moment, just notice where it's going to come from. In this case, it's going to come from the back foot. So the knees need to be released, relaxed, and then got this kind of springiness. So you've got this quality. Just play this. I do these kind of things a lot. So like this, and then just feel like that. I got it, that. Then I take it in. But it's going to really come from the ground, like boom. But it doesn't come out of the ground as well, which is kind of interesting. But just play with it. Just see. You can find it. Okay, it's really just sword work. So all the time we're practicing sword work, we're doing this. A bit more simple and a bit more explicit, but similar thing. Okay, good. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. That's it. That's it. Okay, good. Okay, just work your way into it. So I'm going to show you an exercise you can do with it. Goes back to something we did yesterday. So when you've got this movement with the sword, so you got this, and just play, let's try and show the feet as well. You're going to play with the hands on like this, really on the center line. So they're here, and then you just play with the hands like this. This is the classic koku work. So you're going to go like this. And again, just feel that what you're doing is something from the ground. So the hands are being raised, hands are being raised, hands are being raised, hands are being raised. And really feel that there's like a chain unlocking from the ground. So it's like gum, 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 gum. If you've done any traditional Aikido, any pre-war Aikido before, Tamiki or Yoshinkan, you will have these also drilled into you as well. So I've done a little bit in these styles, but there's a sense that they come into these kind of positions and they really do get slow, 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 go, 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 go. So you've got these kind of chain movements going in. Now I want to come from a natural posture because it's really related to sword work, but get this sense that something, ground. Hands in the center, ground, 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 hips, ground, hips, hand. So that's the kind of chain, but we're always kind of coming back to. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that first movement's actually the easy part. Again, it's always maintaining it is the difficult part. So just watch this. I can start from the ground, but I can also leave the ground. So then I'm exaggerating it, but if my force from the ground dissipates, but then I've lost the ground again. So really be in the ground. And then as you do this is why small movements are really helpful. Slow, small movements like this, this, this. But as I do it, I never lose the contact with the ground. Down, 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 down. It actually increases, but it doesn't decrease. So I'm not pushing off the ground. So in this case, it's like I can push off, or I can sink, 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 sink. And as soon as I've got that feeling like, I can do it in micro movements, take it bigger. There, and there, and there. And then I can go wherever I want with it. But
it's really, Michael, you know that weight underneath quote from this you put up yesterday in the group chat? It really reminds me of this because when I actually focus on the weight underneath, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, it will totally change it. So I like weight underneath because either it's underneath, it's in the middle, or it's on top. So actually, now you've mentioned it, you can do it like this. Watch this. You can take these exercises wherever you want. So watch this. Just you need to play with this also. So if I think I'm weight underneath, I might not actually be weight underneath. That's a kind of trap because I can think I've got the weight underneath and not actually have the weight underneath. So the only way to find out is do it wrong. And we're always doing it wrong. That's also like, let's say I'm always doing it wrong. I'm not going to judge you guys, but get the sense that when you do this, watch this, weight on top, and then put the weight in the middle. So the weight's here. It's in the hips, but it's not really entering the ground. And then feel that, weight underneath, weight underneath. And really play it on this level. So you've got 3 levels. I can be on top, which is basically when I'm in the head. I'm doing it like this. But all the weight's here and here. So all the activity's happening here in my head. And I'm probably also coming out of the ground as well. Play with that one. The being in the middle is like where I'm actually starting to recenter the body again. But I feel like everything's in the middle of the arm. It's somewhere in this kind of state. But I'm actually floating on the ground, or I'm like sliding across the ground. That's how that translates to me. There. And then what I want is like, feel like I get underneath the arms. Boom, in the back, boom, and then out. Goes to there. So just play with these because I might feel that I'm like weight underneath, but actually I've not got the ground. So getting more and more deeper into the ground is really where the work is. Yeah. And really experiment with like being on top, being in the middle, being in the ground. And knowing the difference is the training. Knowing the difference between that is where we train. Yeah. Yeah. Just try. There's a really simple way you can do this. So just watch the arm. You get like, if I'm weight on top or I'm using the arm like this, it will go like this. So because I'm carrying it with the bicep, I'm going like grung with the bicep and then pulling it up. So I'm doing like pull, push up, pull up, push up. And you notice also the shoulder goes with it. This is just like the head doing it. So the second step from that is I can feel like the hip and the hand are working together. But it feels like all this, the intention is like through the center of the arm, through the middle. And that's good. This is where I start to get the hip and the hand go together. And then get the sense that what I'm doing is actually not something in the arm, but really from the back of the body. So this is actually about exploring where your connection comes from. Again, it can simply say like it comes from the ground, goes to the hip, and then into the arm. But it's really the sensation that something's underneath the arm. And then you can go with it. And you just make it really like exaggerated. You can do it with one arm, you can do it with the other arm. And there's a really interesting question you like, comes from Peter Ralston, but it's how do I lift my arm? That's one question you can really explore. How do I lift my arm? Where does that come from? How do you actually lift the arm whenever you do anything? If I do it unconsciously or whatever, you can lift it however you want, but get the sensation like I don't understand the process of how I lift my own arm. Not really. So exploring that's also a nice question. How does it actually work? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. So a lot of the stuff we're doing consciously, actually, a lot of it's based on unknown principles. We don't really know how it's functioning. Good. Huh. That's it. Okay. So we'll exaggerate it a little bit now. You're going to do some footwork with it. So you've got this. What you can do is in 2 steps. You're going to roll back. The arms are underneath, and then I just press it through. Oh, this goes like this. So we're coming a little bit away from the Ikkyo now, but just get the sensation that the hips, the feet roll back, open the hips out, and then the hands, the hips, press through. Just there. And you're coming back. So you've got extension all the time. The hands are in place. Roll back, initiate the movement from the ground, and then press it through. You come into this kind of position now, so you're using this kind of cookie work. So the hands are literally doing this. Boom, boom. And you're doing it with a 2-step. 1, 2, goes through. Yeah, that's it. I find this much easier on the right side than the left because this is more the sword posture, but you can do both sides. Good. So really, really simple movement, but okay. Good. Okay, the movement this relates to most with the sword work is the second suburi. So just imagine you've got the sword, it's like here, and then all the movements you're going to do again, it's initiated from the ground, the hip. So this, and the raise up. So that raise is initiated from the ground. This. And then as you come through, this comes through. So just play with it as if you've got the sword in the hands. Just play with the second suburi. So you roll back, raise, sword, raise the hands in this case, and then sinking through, drop the hands in, and coming back into place. So just imagine you've got the sword like an invisible sword, but give it some weight as well. There. Pressing the body through. I like doing invisible sword work because it will train you to use the body more than like rely on leaning into the sword. So it's actually a really nice thing to do. Especially when you're traveling, you don't have a sword with you, and you need to practice sword work. You need an invisible sword in your bag, really. There we go. Huh. Yeah, okay, good. Interesting. That's it, Nick. Nick, got it. That's it. Very good. Yeah. Got it. Very clear. Super. Okay, good. So just watch extra movement. So this is the point in this one when you go this way. So I get the arms in place and then I just transfer the hip work into the hands. So they go like, boom, boom. Now the hand's not really doing anything. So I'm not really moving. I'm not moving the position of the arm. So I'm really just doing like that. This is where all this cocky work actually comes from, this work. So when we're doing the hand works like this, but it's not this. It's not quite that. So when you do this one, watch this. The hands are like this. You raise them up on the line, and then I just initiate and swing them down. But there's nothing doing this. Watch this. Or pushing out. So just watch what the hands do. They're really, in this case, just following this arc. This, and it comes back to this, the ground, and the way I use the hands. So in this case, you're arcing through the joint system. This places into the center, and then this. So it's always aligning to that. There is some movement, in this case, in the elbow. So there's a kind of that. But it's not a movement where I do something like first, pull back, and then do it. So don't load the movement, because the coming into the kamae is the loading of it. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, this is interesting. So I'm going to show you with the sword. Okay, take a bokken as well, but just watch this. This is a problem, so just watch this. Good, so when you do the second saburo, just watch this. You come to the back. Now, if my position in the kamae is something like this, as I find, because the instructions to find the back, what I need to do is shift the arms to pull back. So because my kamae is in a forward position, I will have to shift the arms, so I'll do an extra movement. So when you come into the kamae, it's here. It's in this position. So when I drop, I don't need to adjust the arms. You see that? So this is why the kamae position is really, really precise. So if I'm working in this area, as I go into the kamae, I can do two things. I can pull the arms back, or I can push the body into the sword to find the back. So just get a sense that what you're going to do is like this. You find the sword, I find the kamae, and it's really, really here. And then I don't need to adjust the arms at all to find the back, because it's just in the right place. So again, this goes back to like cutting out extra movements. So just play with it a little bit. We'll go with the sword, and then we'll kind of come in and out of the sword a bit. Just play with the kamae. Yeah, that's it. And I don't need to pull the arms back because they're just in place. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So. That's it. Yeah, so this is the cheat. Watch this. I know because I went through this for about 2-3 years doing this. So I'll try and cut it out for you because it's really simple to kind of fix. So just watch this. I get here like this, and then my fix for it, rather than like pulling the arms back, is to do this. It's to draw the arms into the hands. So I'm pushing the body into the sword. So that's like breaking a rule of connection, because I don't want to like go into these kind of positions. I want to take that connection with me, so that when you do this movement, everything goes together. So ultimately, I'm trying to bring it all back together. But just watch this. I go here, the arms are in this position. Now, in order to find the back, I can pull the arms back or bring the body into it. I don't want to do either of those movements, because both of them, I'm creating a separation in the connection by either pulling the arms back or pushing the body into the arms. So just now get a sense really lightly. Goes here, goes back, and then from here, release, go through. You make it very light, but it should be very, very easy. The moment I go pulling, I will pull the body out of the ground, or I will push it forward out of balance.
Michael, can you do that again? Can you do that again, but facing sideways to the camera?
I'll do my best. Sideways, this way. Oh, this way? Tell me when.
Yeah, so I can see it, you know, so I'm viewing your side rather than,
That way.
yeah, perfect, thank you.
So you go like, ding. Oh, I've got to watch the light. So, this. This.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. There we go. Oh, yeah, good. That's it. Okay, good. That's it. Second Sabur is a real pain in the ass for me, but anyway, it's another story. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and this is where the form of the saburi, like being very specific, is really helpful. Not in like a way that it's going to make the training easy, but actually the opposite. The form will really pull your ideas of connection apart. That's why I like these forms. So if I was to when I came up to this problem, I just come here and no problem, I just cut through. But why would I find the back? It's a stupid thing to find the back. So I could just skip that part out. Now I skip a whole part of the system, which is like being uncomfortable. And actually, it's a really good teaching in the Saburi that I need to release the arms and the structure of the arm. So this position is not like a holding position. It's not like the structures in this. It's really like a resting position. So that ability to let the structure drop, sink into itself, that's the teaching in this part. So just watch this. Just imagine you're going to hold again. Imagine you're going to hold this position for 2 hours or like even 5 minutes. It would be really difficult. Now, if I'm holding the body in tension like this, I won't be able to hold this. I will get very fatigued very quickly. And that's the point of the kama, is actually that it's a resting position for the body. So it really gets to the point where you can feel like the kama is actually a resting position. That's the position where I'm functional. And that's really what you're looking for in this kind of kama. So that's the kind of feeling you want in the body, like I'm at rest. So be very comfortable for the body. Yeah, that's it. Which is a bit paradoxical, because the arms are raised, the spine's lengthened. It's very tricky. It's a very tricky position to rest in, but yeah, that's it. Yeah. Dun, dun. Yeah. There we go. Nice. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and that's all the easy part, because you're not engaged in the body fully in anything, and there's no real power going through it. So it's just coming into a structure. Pretty easy in terms of, not easy in terms of structuring the body, but in comparison to the next movement, very simple. So you've got this position coming into a resting position, and then what you do from here, really coming here and engage in the hip, hitting the ground with it and impacting. That's the kind of tricky part. But it all relies on that part. That part will be made incredibly much more easier the more I can find the rest in that position. So feel now that you use the rest here, or the settling here, let's say. Let's call it settling. Go settling, and the more I can settle the body down, the more I have access to the ground, the more I can just press the structure through into the ground. So again, it's about maintaining my connection with the ground in simplistic terms. How do I contain the body? And how do I maintain that connection and pass it through into the ground? So just play now with with the step, basically. Okay. Mm-hmm. So. That's it, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Oh, he goes there. Okay, good. Okay, and I can do again another what do you call it? A cheat. You can do a cheat. Watch this. So I need to ground the body and then I need to cut. So I do something like this. I make it really easy for myself. But I've created a separation. I've done the step, landed the body, and then I've done the cut. But the teaching in this case is like, how do I do those together simultaneously? So really get this. This is where it's not easy at all. So you get this. I need to pass the body through and land the cut into that at the same time. So again, I can create a real cheat. I'll make it very simple, like go that. So I've created a split in the movement. Now that's no problem. It's just where we go from it. And again, I got stuck in this for a long time, but I try and get you out of it because it's not really a productive way to train. So go like go that. It's basically bringing the feet and the hands together, but they need to be like working. They need to be working together actually, but just play with it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it, Catherine. There we go. Boom, boom. Then you want something just solid. Boom. It just hits the ground with the cut. Boom. Nice. Yeah. Got it. Boom. There we go. That's it. Good, good, good. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Okay, great. Okay, now you've got like a really impactful, deep kind of connection to the ground. Boom. You can really just play with it. Just play with it. That's it. There we go. Boom. That's it. Nice, nice, nice. Great. Just take a few times, just without the sword, and just go back to that exercise. So you've got the extension. And here, obviously, it's like, I can do this in the sword posture. So you can play with this two ways. I can do it as if I've just got the sword and it's invisible. So it's here, I raise back, find the movement, cutting down. Or preferably go to something where I'm a bit wider. So I'm opening the connection out. It's a bit more round. This, and then I do something slightly different. I don't raise the hands like this, but I go to this kind of position. So the hands are going to stay around the level of the shoulder to the heart. So they're going to stay somewhere in this area. They're not going to go up high for this one. So when you do this one, it's like here, they're around about the height of the shoulder, and then just press it through. Let the body land the hands. So again, it's really just feeling like the hands and the hips work through the ground. Yeah. So that. And all the time you're in extension. Just do that. That's it. That's it, that's it, that's it. In comparison to the sword cut, it's actually quite easy. Again, so like, all I need to do is make it a bit rounder. The hard part's now keeping the flexibility in the joint. Yeah. Yeah, Rob, you got a question?
The hands stay more or less on the line, so I don't go outside. I go in the middle corridor of the.
Yeah, that's
to maintain the arc.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, like a corridor. That's a good real word for it. So it's like they're going to stay within this structure. Now they can go like somewhere here, but the moment I feel they go, oh, that's too far. So I've broken the structure. So just get a sense that they're going to stay within that corridor. That's a good one. So it's the same with their hands when the sword work. They stay within. Now the corridor for the sword work is very narrow. It goes through that, and the corridor for the taijutsu is much wider. It covers the whole body and a little bit beyond the body, but it's got this kind of quality now. And in order to do that, I need a flexible structure in the arm. The moment I make it rigid, no, it's not possible. That. So this whole structure is Very, very, very flexible. Or as flexible as I can make it.
Great, thank you, Michael.
Good word, corridor. I like it. I steal it. Yeah, that's it. Got it.
Michael?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to know, when you make this,
Yeah.
which kind of feeling you have in your hand? Is it tension or is it relaxed?
Now it's, watch this. This is really easy. It's like you've got that, which is tension, right? If I take the hand to full tension, it closes into a fit. The opposite from that is like this.
Yeah.
Now, what I want is like that finger in between, which is like open, expanded, but it's not quite. It's not got the same level of tension like that, which is like tight, full tension.
Yeah.
It's got a sense of like open and expanded. So it's got that. For me, it's like breathe. This is where like the kokyu stuff, like in breath, it's got a kind of breathe. It's got a kind of pliability, and it's got a kind of opening and closing expansion. But it never goes. It's like the lungs. They open and then they expand and they go like this. But they never. I never put the lungs in tension. So it's like fun to do that, like. But the breath is like. The breath's always got that kind of flow to it. So that's where the handwork is also going to follow the breath in that sense. Like it's got that, and it's just that like open pliableness. And like how we use that, like going into Ikkyo and all this stuff, like Nikkyo and all that, I always kind of keep that kind of sense of pliableness in the hand. Even when it's like almost like at full tension, like in Ikkyo, when I go to like that position and I'm really like sealing the grip. But that sense of being open in the palm is actually the same, that same kind of thing. Yeah, just play with it. You've got like that. Yeah, I can do the move like this, really, and then I can do the move like this. You can do the move like this.
No.
With a strike, you can if you can loosen the whole joint structure, make a strike with it, but very difficult. It's much easier for us and much more that for us in terms of Aikido work. Yeah, that's it. And just play.
Yeah.
That.
Thank you.
Good question. Yeah, that's it. Good. Okay, great. So we'll go a little bit further into the bokken work. We'll skip into number 5, just doing it on the spot for now, but just get the sense you're in Kamai, and I'm going to let this whole, again, this joint structure go flexibly around, and then I go in, find the yokomen, in, find the yokomen. Again, we're always training the same thing, so connect it from the ground, pass it through the hip, and then into the hand, and in this case, through the sword. So just get the sense that where the movement starts from is released from the ground, allowing the hip to really initiate the body. Cool. So release it, hip, hand, cut into it. That's it. You can just make it as easy as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yokomunuchi tends to be a bit tight, so just watch this. Just do this as an exercise. You're just going to let the sword roll around the body. Play with it, play with the hands, but just let the sword, like you're going through this room. So the problem with yokomunuchi is we make 2 movements of one. So we go like, boom, boom. And this leads to all sorts of problems later because I'm doing 2 moves when it's just one thing. So just get the sense that as you do this, just let it go. Boom. And then come back, let it go. Boom. And don't worry so much about the form, but it's the feeling of just letting the sword work really come from the ground and the hip. This is where you can really notice the less I grip the sword, the more I need to rely on the hips to create the movement. So that shift of the sword and the movement of the sword is really coming from the hips. Just get a sense of it. Lose the control a bit of the sword in the grip. Yeah, that's it. And really play, you can play with this a lot, so you can keep both hands on the sword, you can put one hand on the sword. You can alternate the side with the hand. Yeah, that's it. Okay, good. Yeah, just watch this up. You're not going to break a rule. Just watch this. When I go loose, it doesn't mean like this. So it doesn't mean like the whole structure comes out. That's basically being led by the sword. So this is interesting because it will tell me how I'm connecting to the sword. Because if I do this, it means I'm throwing a part of my body into the sword too much. too much weight in the sword because I'm allowing the sword to lead the body. Get the sense that you're actually in control. So you're really like here, boom, but I'm not disturbed by the sword. The sword can go back, whatever. So feel it's a feeling of like throwing the sword away. I'm not being disturbed by it. So I don't want the body to be distorted from the sword work. I actually want the opposite. I want the sword to become distorted by the body work. Distort is the wrong word, but you get the drift, hopefully. There. There. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's like a Newton's cradle kind of thing with the arms. Vroom, they just swing through. Vroom. But the center's already dropped, so the center doesn't need to go anywhere, or the center won't go anywhere because the center's dropped, boom, through the ground. Yeah, there we go. Got it. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Boom. Good. Okay, so the hard part is actually the raise. So how I initiate that raise. The swing through is really easy because I just drop the center and let the sword go. Super easy. Just watch the raise because the raise is really, really essential connection work for us. So it's like I can do the hands. I can do something in the body and come forward into it, or I can really like raise it from the center. There. So it's got this quality that the raise needs to be center. So something goes from the hips first. Yeah, that's it. And this is where the movement starts. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And for us, the raise is the hardest part. Really, really difficult to initiate that from the hips. There we go. Got it. Yeah. Good, Catherine. Good. Boom. There we go. And if you let the sword go, it will just follow the hips. You don't need to do a thing with the arms. It will just go. That's a really nice point when you can kind of get into this. Boom. Yeah. Very nice. Okay. This is also interesting. Just watch it. I make a distinction between yokomenuchi, which is what we're doing, and kesagiri. Sometimes they're used interchangeably in the textbooks, but I make a distinction between them because if I'm looking at kesagiri, it's usually working from the side and it's cutting down this way. So it's cutting across. And you'll see lots of sword schools use this because sword schools come from a time when everyone was wearing armor. And if you have armor, you can't use the top of the head to use it because I've got a big helmet on the top of the head. And if I strike someone with a shomenuchi when they've got a helmet on, it makes no sense. So some schools kept it, and there are exceptions to this rule, but most of the schools that you'll see that use kesagiri are really like working this line. And that is obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but in the armor, you've got weak points. So that one I just can't protect because I need mobility in the shoulder to be a swordsman. So I can't really protect this whole area. So this whole area of the body, the neck down through here, this is a big weakness in the armor generally. So they would use this as a strike. So kesagiri is like this diagonal, and it's basically cutting from the neck through it's cutting like this way, across the body. Now yokomen for me is a different thing because I'm actually striking this side of the head and I'm pressing it through to the center of the body. So it's actually working like that line. So it's got a very like narrow margin, narrow corridor again. So it's like here. Now even in this exercise, watch this, I can do it like a kind of kesak. So it goes like this across. That's fine, it's just a different cut. Then when you do the yokomen, it's really like from the center of the head. There. So the arms are doing something else. It really requires me to open the hips out. So just get the sense now that what you're doing is within this corridor of the body. This, but it doesn't deviate from that into this. This is not yokomen for me. This is kesagiri. So just play with it a little bit, and then we're just going to the cut. Yeah, that's it. A yokomen is really like yokomen is just a variation on shomen. Very much a variation on shomen. It's not a different thing really. Just a slight change in the hips. And the important thing is I'm still attacking the center. It goes from the side of the head to the center. Shomanuchi goes from the top of the head to the center. All the time we're trying to make that center connection. Yeah, that's it, that's it, that's it. Got it. Good. Okay, now the hard part is taking that all forward and with a step. So like coming here, landing the body down. So just play the steps. You can do 2, 3 steps. If you've got the space, we can just do 1. But get the sense now that you're going to start from the position, raise, land everything down. And again, it's really about the groundwork, weight underneath, all that stuff. See if you can just bring it all now into this movement. Everything together. Weight underneath. Give it a try. That's it, that's it, that's it. You like the Suburi pattern, like 4 cuts, 3 cuts, turning, or you can just do 1 cut. That's it, good. That's it, that's it. Again, the hard part again is maintaining the connection from the back of the spine. So this is why it says really get a sense that when you do this, it's being like an explosion from the back. So I got the ground, that's like a given. The ground, and then what I can really do in this movement is lose the back. Ugh. And even if I've got the arms working from the hips, it can happen. So get the sense that what you're doing is something else, which is like really rolling from the back of the body. So you've got this, what needs to happen in this case is like a scissoring in the hands. So there's a release through the hands there. So this is happening in the body this way or this way. If I keep the arms like this, I go right into I go into this part of the body automatically. So I go into the front of the neck, the throat, and I go into the chest and the pecs and the biceps. So this happens. And there's no way I can keep that in a relaxed way. It's just not possible. So really get a sense that what you're doing, this whole part of the body is very light. And then this part of the body is really, really full. And then it's whoa, it's pressing it through. So you've got this feeling of like something really dense from the back of the body. Just give it a try. This is the last few. But it's really the sense of pressing the body from the back. That's it. Yeah. That's it. This is where it comes into kokyu work. All the kokyu comes from the back. So your posterior chain is where all your power is going to come from. So your glutes, the spine, your lats, the back side of your shoulder blades. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it, that's it, that's it. Good. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Great. Boom. Good. Okay. Last few movements just with the empty hand. So play with this a little bit, but it's actually really easy. So when you do with the hand, just stepping through and bringing the body in with it. I found it's just super easy because it's just like I just press the connection through. So I'm not having to do all this kind of stuff that I do with the sword. So you can play with that, very easy, but for the last 30 seconds, you can also play with rotating to the back and finding these kind of movements. So rotating out, finding this kind of movement. I'm going to use the same like applied yokomuchi form. So it's like this kind of feeling. This and this and this and this. It's really using like a yokomuchi structure through the body. That's it. Yeah. Good. Okay, good. Yeah. And if you like, just plays with the hands in like a sword position, like you've got the invisible sword. And then just see if you can open it out a little bit. That's it. Yeah. Good, Nick. That's it. Boom. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You got it. Okay, good. Okay, good. Nice. Good. So, like, apart from making connections in the body, making the body more connected, I also need to make connections within the system. So that's also my interest in these classes as well. Knowing how to connect the sword work into the koku work, and knowing someone was just, I think it was Nick was doing this as well, like knowing that I can then apply this form to this form to this form, and that it's actually this. It's like this. It's the signature of the style that it really comes from this kind of work. This work and the sword work, and this work, the koku work, and then this translates into the ikkyos and the irimine. And knowing that that's the case is the majority of the work, knowing how to work the system. So that's hopefully clear. If it's not, let me know. Okay. We will bow out, but play with it as well because it's really fascinating work. So. どうもありがとうございました。Good. Great. Very nice.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
See you, Michael.
Thank you. See you soon. What's tomorrow? Friday.
Friday.